Hi everyone, welcome to SharpNet EDU. In today's video, we're going to learn about cascading of the dropdown in MVC project. So, agenda of today's video is basically we implement the dropdown cascading of dropdown in one of the project. It's just a continuation of the last project. So, instead of normal text box, we create the dropdown and we bind that dropdown from the database, the SQL server, and we perform the save and edit option for that project. So let's start with the database first. So I'm using the same database what we have used in the last videos. So in the last video, if you remember, so we have used this student database. If you want to view the last video, you can check my comment box in on the description. um, in this database, I have just created two new table. One is the state and other is the city. So in the state table, we have taken this ID and the state. State is basically the state name, and ID is just to refer it as a primary key. And in the city, we have, because city is always dependent upon state, so we taken the field state ID here as well, and the ID of the city table and city name. So to enter the data in the state, so we can just execute this command insert into state, and we can enter this. So if you want to enter a new state, just change this ID, and then uh, we can keep it anything like Goa. So we can insert it here. Maybe this is the primary key violation, so I'll select and execute it. Why this state is coming? Okay, so database here is selected as master, so we need to select the student database. uh, so I'll execute it. So one row is inserted into this. Now if you check the state section, so we'll see state and city. So you can see like we have a seven state, five state here, and based on these state we have the city. So for Goa we don't have any city, so if you want to insert anything for Goa, then we have to keep the state ID at 7 here, and this should be in 9. If you see the select statement of the city, so we have 7 record here, so we can keep it 8 or 9, and then 7 is this. So inside Goa we can keep it South Goa. So let's execute it. So one row is affected here. So this table I have already created here. So if you have not created this table, just execute this command. It will create the table, and based on that insert the few values in that table and the cities based on that state. So this is more on the database side. um, what we have to do now, we have to go in our Visual Studio project. So this is our existing Visual Studio project. So what I have done, I have already added all the details here. I'm just to keep this video short. And the first thing what we have to do, once you made the changes in the existing database, uh, you have to come here in the ADMX file. So go in the ADMX file, you can go in the model, and you can go in the student data ADMX file and double click on it. So earlier we have only one table, student data, from where basically loading the record and saving the record in the student data table. Now we have a city and state table as well. To load it here, let me remove it first, so that I can explain you how we can load the data from how we can load the table from database. I'll just remove it. Let's remove this too. Let's click on OK. So let's remove this as well. I've removed the state as well. So now just add, right click here, click on this update model from database. So when you click on it, you're able to see the tables in the add section. So just expand it, dview, you see these two tables. Whenever you create any new table to the existing database and you load the data from the model, then you able to see those table here. Just click on it and click on finish. So now we able to see this. To save it, just click on control save, sorry, uh, control S, then it pop ups with the OK option and cancel option. Click on OK and again click on OK. So it basically saved the edmx file with the updated values. Now what we have to do, the first thing is basically to create the student record. To create the student record, we have this CSS/HTML file earlier which we have defined. So earlier what we have this edit for the normal text box. Now we have made changes to as a drop down, and the same we did for city as well. Now what we can do, because we need to load the data from the database, so we have to go into the student controller. And in the student controller, if you go to the create one, so this is basically the get of the create. So when you basically requesting to for the create form, so we have to pass the state and the city to this object. So what basically we have done here, so we just fetch the data, I mean state detail from the database and converted it into the list, and we provided this list to this view bag. Here we have used the view bag to pass the data from controller to view. So so any list we can pass in the view bag and we can utilize it in the CSS/HTML file. So and rest this student model we have passed as we did it earlier. Now what we can do, if you go in this create.cshtml file, here we just need to pass the state, because city anyway we have to load as per the selection of the state. So we can't send the city details from here. So if you go here in the create.cshtml file, what actually we are doing, we creating the drop down list. We taking this view the state from the view bag. So we creating a new select list based on the ID and state 1. State 1 is the name of state. Why state 1? Because if you see the state.cs file, here the field name is state 1. So that's why we kept it the state 1. And select state basically just a label, and this is the ID of this drop down. So whenever we made any changes to this drop down, I mean if you select the new state or something like that, then we have to write some function that basically loads the city drop down based on this selection. So we return some jQuery function for this event. So if you scroll bit, so I've already and written this. So on the document ready, on this change drop down, so we return the change function for this, and this state ID is basically fetching the current selected value from this drop down. So in this whatever you select, so it will come with the state ID, and we call this url.action method to get the JSON data from control from this get city action method. So if you hover here, so you see action name and the controller name. So action name, this is the action name, this is the controller name. So if you go in the student, just copy it. If you go in the student controller and search for this get cities, you see what actually we are doing. We are fetching the detail from state ID. I mean, sorry, fetching the detail from the city based on the state ID. So it basically provide the list of the all the city based on that state, and it returns as a JSON file. Now if you go here in the create.cshtml, so what we did, we taken the ID of the city dropdown, we loaded this dropdown with the city, with the city name and the city ID. Okay, so how, so basically by this, like we have we run this each loop here, and whatever data available in this JSON file, we base loaded this city dropdown with that data. So let's execute this, we'll see. So after executing this project, it will load. Let's load the student controller. Okay, so let's call this create one. It will take some time because we're running the first time. Okay, so the form is loaded now. So if just put the ID 345 something like that, and then we put uh, anything test and test at the rate gmail.com, and then phone number 0, and then anything we can put here. Select state. If we select the state as UP, then you able to see the Noida. If you select Delhi, so you're able to see all the city of Delhi. So this how basically this drop down is behaving here. So this basically the state is getting loaded from the view bag, and on the selection of this we calling this method. On this selection of this, on the change of this, calling this method, and this get city method returning the values from the database, and based on that data we loading this city drop down. So here this city dropdown is getting loaded by jQuery function. So let's create it, and it will call the create post method. So you see the test is created here, and for edit will implement in the similar way. So if you go here in the edit, so again we have to pass when we edit anything in the get call. So let's see the get of the edit. So here is the get of the edit. So we basically taking the ID which we basically needs to edit it here. Based on that we fetching the data from the student. Now the extra thing what actually we are doing here, we passing this state and the city. Here we passing the city list as well in the view bag. Why we passing here city list, and why we are not passed in the create method? Because this is the edit one. So in edit we have to provide the details what actually we have selected. So we have to preload the data uh, before selection. So that's why we passed in the whole list of the state, and those city list, basically we have selected the all the city which is present, which is basically based on this um, selected state. So suppose we have selected the Delhi, so it pull all the city list of Delhi. So it's based on the selection. So it's putting this all the city list in the view bag, and then it's returning. So in the edit.html5 we did the same. If I scroll a bit up, so you see uh, the drop down with the state, and we like we loading this list with this state view bag with the ID and state one. One extra thing here is basically we provided the model dot state here. What is this? So if you hover here, so it is basically the selected value. So we are passing the selected value which basically selected by the user. When in case of edit, if you see here in the city as well, we providing these two values, because we need to load the data what user have selected, then they able to change it. So let's see, and the same thing, because if you need to do any changes in the state and cities, and again city needs to be reloaded as per the state selection. So this functions needs to be here as well in the edit. Otherwise you want to be able to select the new state and city. So let's see how edit is working here. So let's click on this test one. So this basically loaded the all selected value like Delhi, New Delhi we have selected earlier. So if you want to change the state, you can change it. Let's change it with Goa, and then let's change with the South Goa. Let's save it. So it should be saved with the Goa and South Goa option. Okay, so this all how it's working, the cascading of the drop down. Even if you have other multiple drop downs based dependent upon one and another, like if you have country, state and city, then state should be dependent upon the country. In that case you have to add here one uh, additional function on in the document itself. Just copy paste from here to here and just paste it above this for country change. So on the based on the country change, the preloaded should be the country, then on the selection similar to this state will work here, and similar to this city will work. So this all the way how it's working, and how basically if you want to validate how the data is, um, what is basically the benefit of using the database and loading it from the database. So suppose you want to add a new city, so you can do it right away from the database. It will not require any code changes. Just change the primary key here, we'll keep the 7, we can make it North Goa, and just execute this query. And if you refresh it, let's go back to the list and just create a new. So you able to see that state here right away. So you able to see the North Goa. So this is how it's work here. Thank you everyone for